This one is broom ball. It's with a broom. They do play hockey, of course, play hockey. Michigan Tech is most well known for its men's hockey team, which is in the top 5 in the country every year. But there are many different sports for men and women. Right? This is one of our main differences, or main features of American and Western education, is that there are a lot of sports, especially in American education, for men and women together. Okay? There's Nordic skiing or cross country. There's also downhill skiing. Basketball for men and women. Like I said, hockey for men. I played this sport at university. What's this one?
American football.
It's American football or gridiron, yeah. This is not me. Right? I would have been way back here. Right? And then there's track and cross country, again, for men and women. Big part of sport, or big part of university life, big part of high school life is extracurricular activities and sports. Very important for student development, for school spirit. So at Michigan Tech, I started in electrical engineering college. Right? What would I do with an electrical engineering degree? What would I do with the electrical engineering? Build what?
Machines, maybe.
What kind of machines?
Electric machines.
Electric machines, okay. Yeah, a lot of computers, a lot of different kinds of computers. This one is about as big as our screen here. It's quite big. A giant cabinet just full of wires and little cards. It's called a programmable logic controller. I had the opportunity to take 2 work experiences, for one for a summer at General Motors Corporation, right? Chevy, GMAC, GM. And I made things like this. What is this? Anybody? What is that? It's a car door, yeah. Or we made the quarter panel. We made the quarter panel of fender. Right, so these giant machines, much bigger than this room, giant machines will stamp the metal and make them form up like that. So my job was to help troubleshoot and maintain and inspect these different types of cabinets and the electrical parts, sensors and things of these giant machines. Right, a couple years after that, I worked for a company called Kerwood making plastic.
Yes.
We actually, the company might have made this plastic wrapper for Kit Kat. Right? It might not seem like it's important, but these machines were about 10 to 15 meters high, probably about 15 meters high. Many different floors to make this simple roll of plastic. It's a very complicated process. Going from these little pellets, these tiny pieces of plastic, through all these different processes, coming out like that at the end. Again, working with these things. While I was at Kerwood, working for my second electrical engineering internship, I found out that I wasn't as much of a machine guy as I thought I was. I was more of a people person. And so I went back to Michigan Tech and I changed my major to Bachelor's of Business Administration from electrical engineering. I got a minor in psychology. I thought I would go into sales engineering. I also got a certificate in international business and then a certificate in Japanese. And I thought that I would get a job at something like GM, right, and go out and sell things or work in the business end. But then September 11, 2001 happened, and the economy took a nosedive, right? The economy went right down, especially in Michigan. So I couldn't find a decent job right out of university, much like many recent graduates can. Right? Luckily, I had a little bit of experience working at the Michigan Tech newspaper, the local newspaper, and the local radio station in Houghton. So I wanted to use those skills and get into something else. I thought maybe advertising or journalism. I took an internship in the news department at WDET, Detroit Public Radio, worked news for a little bit, but ultimately couldn't find anything I was looking for. So I was just older than 25, I was about 26, and I decided to move to Thailand. What am I going to do in Thailand?
Having fun.
Having fun. No, unfortunately, I didn't just go there to have fun, though. But yeah, it's fun. Sure, everywhere new is fun. Yep.
For the beach.
For the beach, sure. There's a lot of beach there. I did not go by boat. I went by plane. I went there to teach, right? So where is Thailand? Let's see. So I came all the way from Michigan. I flew 16,000 kilometers to Bangkok, Thailand, right? So here's Saudi Arabia. It's about 5 hours to get to Thailand from here. About 7 hours by plane. Sorry, it's 7 time zones. It's about 11 hours by plane to get to Michigan. So if it's 4:45 right now here, it's about 8:45 at night in Thailand. And it's about, if I called my dad right now in Michigan, it would be just about 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. Right? So it's 7 hours different. 9 o'clock in the morning there, and about 8, almost 9 o'clock at night here. So it's quite far, all these different places. Here's Thailand again. So I flew into Bangkok. I went and did my teaching certificate here, and then I started working. I worked here. Let's see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major regions. I worked in 4 of those 5 major regions over several years, right? Just moving around, working for local high schools, public schools and private schools from age 7 until age 18 like you guys. Teaching mostly math and science, but also English at various different schools. Not really finding a place that satisfied my long-term goals or gave me the type of tangible or intangible benefits that I wanted. I understand a lot of these words are new for you. Please just bear with me, right? So after a year in Thailand, I moved to this place. What's that place? That's China. How big is it compared to Saudi Arabia? Big, small, the same. Much bigger, yeah, it's a lot bigger. So if Thailand is down here, I moved all the way up here to a place called Chengde, north of Beijing. What's Beijing? Anybody?
China.
Beijing, China, yeah. Peking, what's that called? It's like Riyadh for Saudi Arabia. What's it called?
Capital city.
The capital city. I was about an hour and a half from the capital city. In a place most well known for this mountain resort. Former Emperor Kangxi had his mountain resort there. I worked at the local petroleum college, coincidentally, for a year for very low salary, but it had a little intangible benefit, I suppose, and then moved back to Thailand because I didn't really, again, find it to my liking. Started working for 7 more years in Thailand at many different schools. Worked for these guys, this contract agency, a couple of times, an international school, an Assumption College, and a couple of different places, up north in the mountains, right, doing camps with this famous Australian guy who speaks Thai, and then finally settling in my last school in Thailand at a place called Klong Yai near Cambodia, where my wife worked, right? I had met my wife when I went back to teach at this place, and not met her, but ended up living there, teaching together at this school where we translated documents and made some pretty lifelong friends there. However, again, not quite enough salary, not quite enough long-term motivation for me to stay there. Kept moving around. In the process, while I was working from 2010 to 2014, I earned my master's in business administration. This is a picture of me getting my degree from the princess of Thailand. This is me after I got my PhD, right, with my wife at the university. This is me with my wife and all of her people in her village. They're all quite proud of me for graduating from the Ramkhamhaeng University's international program. This university has about 100,000 students. Is that a lot or normal or just little? That's a lot, yeah. It's one of the largest universities in the world by enrollment. So shortly after finishing my PhD, we moved back to this place. What place is this?
China.
That is China again, yeah. Instead of being here north of Beijing, I moved to this other place called Chengdu, which sounds very much like Chengde, the place I was the first time, right? The air quality, the smog, very bad smog, smoky air, smoke, so much smoke from the factories. I got sick often because of the smoke, often, yes, it was terrible. But I was working with Disney English. You guys know Disney, right? They have an English training company in China. And they have this type of whiteboard. They've got a touch board and another projector on the wall in each classroom. They've got computers, they've got plush toys, all sorts of things to have fun with kids. It wasn't a bad place to work, and we got some tourism time in here too. Chengdu is mostly known for its tea houses and pandas. But again, it should be also known for its smog because that pushed me away to this place. Oh, sorry. While I was at Disney, I went through some of their online training programs like the Harvard Managed Mentor, and then I did a little bit of more education through Colorado State Online. Online lessons are becoming more and more popular. In fact, some high school students in many states attend virtual lessons, right? Maybe your district, your high school, doesn't offer some sort of course, like Java programming or C++ or some language, right? You can go learn online, even through university or through a state-sponsored high school education program. Yeah, online learning, again, is becoming quite a bit more popular in the Western world, and it's taking off here in Saudi Arabia too, but it's not quite as well accepted as we're seeing in the US. While I was in China, I earned my certificate to teach in the United States mathematics and business administration by testing at Pearson VUE centers. And so what we're seeing is sort of a globalization of education, where a person like me who has a bachelor's degree can further his education by learning online independently and through a company, and then testing at centers that have locations all around the world like this. Also, while I was in China, one of my former co-workers from the National Institute of Development Administration, sorry, not co-worker, one of my former classmates from the PhD program, asked me if I wanted to do some research. And so I started doing research with him. And this really shows how education can take off in a different direction. If you worked at a university in the United States or in the Western world, you would have to research a lot. Right? You have to publish. And so in order to increase my career potential, I started researching with partly with this polyphon compound, but also by myself many times, and with my half-sister, the Michigan 34th District Court head judge, on things like human trafficking, human rights, children's rights, foreign language learning, foreign language anxiety, arbitration and alternative dispute resolution, right? Things that you guys probably have never heard of, you might not be interested all that much in. But this is a major part of what United States and Western college professors do. If you go to college in the United States or in Canada or elsewhere in the Western world, a main part of your professor's job is to do research. Yes, he has to teach you, but he also has to go home